Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Tatiana Terekova, the author of The Best Self-Guide, 6-Step System. And today I'd like to walk you over my monthly cash flow planning tool. You can call it budget template, you can call it expense tracker, but the key thing here is to see where is your money going on a monthly basis and how you can save, how you can plan for a family, plan for whatever you're planning for, retirement, leaving your job, getting married, having children, all kind of life stages. So over the years I was honing and perfecting this template, and I really hope you will find it useful. Please leave your comments, good comments, bad comments, critique in under this video, because I really want to see what you guys think about it. All right, so we have 8 major categories, and before I start, I'd like to just step aside and give a global picture of our finances. I've seen a lot of templates online, and even from financial companies. I saw those templates and they just don't make any sense. That's why I'm not surprised people are not doing them, because you see sometimes categories like miscellaneous, categories utilities. I have a separate video about the budget where I'm deeply exploring why would people not track their money, why we work so hard and yet we sometimes let the money slip through without any record. And I think the main reason is the lack of workable templates, because everything I have seen so far doesn't have those workable categories. What I was trying to do, I was trying to look at my life, what I do day to day, where I go, what services I use, how do I spend my day, my week, my month, and create expense categories that match my lifestyle, match my typical day, my typical week. And let's go and see what are those categories. Number one, of course, housing. We have to live somewhere, whether we are lucky homeowners or we are lucky tenants or we are amazingly lucky kids living with their parents in their basement and paying some nominal rent. Whatever this is, housing is a number one cost. Hopefully it's not the highest cost, but as you may agree with me, it's probably the biggest cost we have in Canada and generally in the West, but in Canada particularly. So housing, and this category has subsections, so the costs, mortgage, property tax, property insurance, all kind of utilities, heating, internet, and other things. You may have all of them, you may have some of them, but what is important is housing on its own is a big, most important category, because we have to sleep somewhere, we have to live somewhere. And when I see a template that just has the utilities separately from housing, it is astonishing, because you would not have those utilities without a house that you own or rent. So I have them under the major category, housing. Okay. Next one, car. And I could have called it transportation, I could have called it public transit, but car is just short and sweet. But if you don't own a car, if you use shared rides or Uber, or you just don't use transportation at all, lucky you, but most of us have to own cars, and whether it's car loan, leasing costs, gas, car insurance, parking, maintenance, parking fees, and other things, it's all under this category, car. I would agree with some critique that you may give me that it's not really a car, it should be transportation. And I agree. I simply use the car because it's short. But if you don't own a car and you use public transportation, I would just edit this subcategories and just put taxi, go train, TTC, things like that. This template is in Excel, so it's totally editable. You can editable, not edible, editable. So if you don't like word housing, if you say shelter, if you don't like car, you can rename it to whatever you like, whatever speaks to you. But the most important message here is that we live in North America and we have to pay to live somewhere, and we have to pay to move from point A to point B. However we do it, it's usually a substantial cost. The next category is surprisingly, you may be surprised why I have this category altogether. It doesn't take much percentage of the whole budget, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, depending again how much you pay for life insurance, for critical illness insurance. But I single it out, first of all, because financial services are not life essentials. It's, if you think of Maslow pyramid, it's somewhere in the middle, higher on hierarchy. You don't have to have life insurance really to survive. It's more over tax planning, financial planning. You don't need to have credit card fees and interest if you're not using cards. So it's a bit of an advanced living to have financial services costs. And the reason I like to track it, because usually it is the easiest way to get some savings, because all the insurance brokers and agents and banks and credit card companies always chase us to offer us the next best deal on insurance, on life insurance, on bank account, on some crazy amazing credit card. And through this mechanism you can easily save some money. For example, we always have credit cards that give us points that we redeem for gas cards, or straightforward cashback, or something tangible. And yes, I get it. You would have to pay annual fee for those cards, but I usually call the bank and I always beg them to waive it for this year, or I close the card, open a new one. It's a bit of nuisance, but it saves me usually $100 and $150 on the dividend card. And if it's a phone call, let's say 20 minutes, and changing pre-authorized payments another 40 minutes, that's a good way to make $150 after tax by just spending 1 hour. The next category is big one, childcare. If you have a kid still in nursery, kindergarten, or preschool, you would agree with me that can easily be 25% of your total income. Childcare is very expensive in Canada, and I insist on how important it is to track the daycare, the private school, and all those costs. You need to single this out into one big category, and you can create subcategories, of course, but some budgets I've seen people would have 16 lines under childcare, but it's one big category. That's what's important for families that are with spouses that are separated or divorced and they have to reconcile expenses. That's extremely important to track who spends what, just for that reason alone. Certain childcare costs, like daycare and private school, may have some tax implications, usually good things. You can deduct daycare from your income, and you can get some tax credits for private school and some deductions. So yeah, not tracking it is just you're shortchanging yourself. The next category is health. Most people I worked with don't have much in this category. Maybe 5-10% of people really have high medical costs. First of all, because we have really generous Ontario health insurance plan where I live and work, and it's really not that big of a deal to budget for health care expenses, but they're still there, especially for those of us who are in their 50s and we have certain things that we would like to buy, such as vitamins, supplements, special treatments, maybe that are not fully covered by the group insurance or those medical benefits you would have from work. And again, going back to separated spouses, sometimes it's part of the negotiation and spousal support. So it's good to know how much are you spending on your health. And with age, usually this category goes higher and higher and higher in weight, and planning for this is crucial. The next one is living essentials. Living essentials, in my view, should be very simple. Food, drinks, but not alcoholic drinks, just the food and maybe mineral water, tea, coffee. I agree, coffee, tea, you need to have that on a daily basis. Clothing, grooming, if you have pet, for those of you who love your pets, obviously it's not negotiable expense, it's a living essentials. I would urge you not to put anything here that is not absolutely important, absolutely non-negotiable. Not because I want to bash you for going to Starbucks and spending $5-6 on a cup of coffee. Not to bash you for buying expensive clothing or luxury car. No, I just want you to know what is your bare bone budget, that if you slash everything that it's non-essential, can you, for example, leave your spouse? Can you leave your job? Can you move to another country and live with no income for a while? That's why I have this category of living essentials, that it's absolutely bare bone budget. Not restaurants, not eating out, not getting those notorious lattes here and there. They will be reflected in your discretionary expenses or bad habits. But in living essentials, try to be as austere as possible, simply to know when you take your after-tax income and all those expenses, do you have anything left? Do you have any room for your discretionary spending? And when you can define at least plus minus ballpark number, you can say, look, quite confidently, okay, I have $500 that I can spend on discretionary expenses. I can choose not to. I can choose to pay down more towards my debt, or I may choose to invest this money, but without knowing what is exactly you have after shelter, transportation, financial services that you have to have, childcare, health, and living essentials. How much money do you have left? Then there's a wiggle room. Then this is your play money, so to say. For many years, I was just tracking living essentials and, of course, discretionary spending, which will have in a different ways. For some of us, annual vacations are important. Some of us maybe stay home and spend money on weekend activities, hobbies, gifts, luxuries, other. So those are your very, very specific luxuries, extras that you choose to have. And before you get there, I again nag you to know how much money you really have to spend on your discretionary. And for many years, I didn't know where would I put wine and beer and overdue fees. I used to track them in financial services, but it's really not financial services. It's not like life insurance. If you spend $50 on your life insurance and you die, your beneficiaries will get money. If you spend $50 on overdue fees, that's not a financial service. That's actually financial disservice. If you spend money on traffic, parking tickets, is it transportation? No, it's not, because you have a choice on prudent parking, careful driving, and trying to eliminate all those things altogether. Usually, those bad habits result from lack of planning, from being in a rush, from sleeping too much, maybe, and then speeding to work and getting those traffic tickets that translate into high insurance and yada, yada, yada. Therefore, I would strongly suggest not to include cigarettes, for example, in living essentials, because it's not a living essential. If anything, it's actually a negative expense that takes away your health, and just asking for those expenses to go up sometime in life. And I'm not a lifestyle coach, I'm not a healthcare professional to nag you about not drinking and not smoking. But as a financial advisor, I will say it's a very expensive habit. It could easily be a nice summer cottage for all the money we people spend on booze and cigarettes and all those crazy other little things. Therefore, I have a category for bad habits, and I think it's a lot of fun to narrow down how much money you just spend without even getting much fun. I would agree that maybe we're getting some fun having occasional glass of wine and champagne and beer. Maybe you can allocate those things into entertainment, into discretionary expenses. But if it's something daily, I would put it into bad habits. And cigarettes, definitely non-negotiable, is a bad habit. Okay, so those are my 8 categories, and I would suggest to start right from the top, go with housing, then car, and so on and so on. And you would see in my next slide the rationale of such division. So my template has this consists of many tabs, and every month would have the page with the breakdown. You obviously can do it on an annual basis, but on an annual basis, nobody tracks anything on an annual basis. My suggestion is always do it monthly, and always do it with after-tax income. If you get tax refund, just treat it as an income, because when we use our pre-tax payment, it just creates an illusion that we have all this money, which we don't. So my tool would have monthly cash flow, as you see right now, represented for January, February, March, and so on till the end of the year. And every page has a page like expense summary, also for January, February, and so on, where you could see a pie chart. I love pie charts. I think they're very cool. You could see the breakdown of your expenses, and you could see, okay, this is how we spend our money, and we have 10% in the bad habits. Maybe we should slash this 10% and move it into discretionary expenses. And this is what I find a lot of people see as motivation. Why won't you, for example, stop smoking, save $300 a month, which is almost $3,600 a year, but let's say $4,000 a year. And instead, of course, I would tell you, pay down your mortgage, put money into RSP and all those good things, but they're not fun things. But you can reallocate the money that you spend on the bad habits into discretionary spending, and maybe have much richer weekend activities. Or maybe you can consider having a more expensive luxury car. Maybe you can put your kids into some extra activities. If that doesn't entice you, maybe you can hire a personal trainer. I would say at this point, anything you would do would be a better choice, because those will enrich your life, will give you essentially real happiness, not the illusion of happiness. So these kind of things that you can even do on a psychological lifestyle level with the help of monthly cash flow. And when I don't know what to do with my life, when I have those moments that I think, should I leave Canada? Should I go back to Russia? Should I go back? Should I live in Europe? I start with my monthly cash flow, and usually mind gets organized, thoughts settle, and I can come up with more realistic plan for my life. So that is the front page of my cash flow tool, and that's every month has the second page, which shows you the pie chart. As you see in the bottom of it, in the second half of the page, I like to track saving ideas. And those are my saving ideas. Many years ago, I canceled cable TV, never really missed it. We started cooking at home. We during pandemic completely eliminated restaurants. No, I shouldn't say completely. We go on very special occasions when it's an event, and we go to expensive restaurants so that we really spend money there, and we want a good picture and something to remember. Gym was really helpful to me because I would always go to the gym before going to the mall. I would say, okay, I will go and I buy myself whatever I want, but only after I do 1 hour of cardio dance, Zumba, another hour of yoga, another half an hour of swimming, and another half an hour of sauna and all this nice rituals of putting cream on my face, putting serums on my hair, and all those kind of things. And surprisingly, I found that after doing all this, I didn't want to go shopping because I gave myself tons of happiness and adrenaline and endorphins and serotonin, and all those things were just cruising around my body, and I didn't feel like shopping. Plus, I just really wanted to go home and do my other things. Kijiji sales, again, win-win. You can do decluttering, you can raise some cash, you can meet some interesting people, you can get tons of entertainment and save money. I raised about $5,000 in selling little things in my home during the pandemic, which was pretty cool. As you see, shopping plan, menu, coupons. I don't insist on you clipping coupons, but having a shopping plan and menu, it's pretty cool. You will find actually some ideas how to organize your meal planning in my book. Okay, what else we have here? Brewing your own coffee, stock up on healthy snacks, and by this I mean have them in the car. So some granola bars, maybe that you made at home, some raw nuts, some maybe water, because you would thank yourself dearly for having those healthy things in your car. Okay, so you can explore this by all means, and every month will have obviously the same second page of the budget. And I encourage you, if you find a way to optimize your life, optimize your spending, save money, track it, and becomes a bit like a sport to see, oh, in January I canceled cable TV, and in February I canceled my data plan and use Wi-Fi everywhere I go, and so on and so on. And then you can analyze month from month in this particular section your progress, because you not only can put those ideas, but you can track how much money it saved you. It really motivates me to keep going and be creative. This is an illustration of how I see budget, microeconomics of the family changing. And again, it all goes around those 8 categories of my budget. If you see, every pie chart has housing, transportation, car, it has financial services, childcare, health, essentials, bad habits, and discretionary. So I'll walk you through stages of life so that you could see the efficiency of using those 8 categories, how wonderfully they track your life from the financial aspect of it. And you will see that certain things pretty much don't change, like probably essentials would not change much. Food is food, clothing is clothing, but other things do change. And it's quite interesting to see what stage you're at and how you will transition. So let's look at the young adults. You usually have lower income at this time of your life, lowest ever. And again, some people have very high income at 20, and some people don't have any bad habits, and some people have children when they're 20. What I am referring to in this presentation here is typical situation. And if you are a young maverick that has kids and making $100,000 and had home paid off, listen, kudos to you. You shouldn't be listening to me. I probably shouldn't be listening to you. I'm presenting my observation over my experience working with clients, and I would say average person, typical person would fall into these categories. And some people stay at this stage all the way till 50. So again, it's very hypothetical. But the key thing is at the beginning of your life, how does this chart of expense breakdown look like? Not much housing, usually higher cost on cars, not because the cars are new and cool vehicles, because of expensive car insurance. Financial services, usually not expensive because life insurance is cheap because you're young. But what is not cheap is the cost of borrowing, and a lot of young people forget to pay their credit cards on time, and they pay high interest. Sometimes it's not even a choice. They have to finance their lifestyle, finance their education, and because their credit rating is still in its infancy, the banks and credit unions charge them higher rate. That's why financial services are not necessarily cheapest and lowest expense. Most people choose to have kids later in life, and now it's not even 30s. Now I think it's even maybe early 40s. We see people get established and then have childcare because it's expensive. It's not just because, oh, I want to do my career kind of thing. I would say it's very expensive, and not everybody wants to sacrifice their 20s, not go anywhere, not to spend money on vacation, not to have any life, but just spend all the money raising children. Not everybody is doing this today. Health, usually quite reasonable, if anything. Essentials, you would see probably essentials same throughout all the stages. Bad habits, that's a good one. I see younger people usually would have lots of bad habits, bad eating habits, smoking, drinking. Well, when else can you afford to do this? And by afford, I mean health costs, not just financial. Discretionary. You surprisingly would have discretionary income, even with no discretionary income, discretionary expenses, even with quite low income. I remember when I came to Canada, I was 23, I had my first job. It was paying me $24,000 a year. Quite quickly, it came to $30,000 a year, and I had more than $1,000 of discretionary income because my housing was next to nothing. I lived with my sister. My car was a big expense, and bad habits, obviously, shopping, maybe booze and clubs and all those things. But I had more than $1,000 in discretionary income, and I never had it in my life afterwards. Okay, so this is the first category. No kids, good health, usually, higher interest rates, high bad habits, or I should say higher bad habits, moderate housing costs, because let's face it, most of young adults either share their housing or they still live with their parents or they pay nominal rent to their parents, but it's not like full-blown costs usually. Higher cost of car ownership because of insurance. Okay, next category, you got married and you have children. That's important because if you're married but you live like students, you really don't have childcare costs, you would not be in this category. This category is for people that have children. First, second, third, here we go. You see big portion of your income goes to housing. And mind you, that's 10 years into your career years, maybe even 15 years. So your income is no longer the lowest. You should have had few promotions and upgrade of your skills. So you're not making the least amount of money, but yet most of your money go for housing and childcare. Health, hopefully still good. Essentials are the same. Bad habits, well, if there's a good thing about having children is that usually you have to slash on your bad habits because you just don't have money for this. Discretionary, to me, almost disappears, not only because daycare is expensive, not only because you have to buy diapers and formula and stroller and jumpers and all those baby clothes. It's just because it's not much fun to go and travel with children. They cry, they can get sick, and they're a nuisance. You can't really enjoy your vacation as you did when you didn't have children. It's expensive. Even when you take your children, unless you have nanny, but if you have nanny, then you're probably in a wealthy segment, and you probably don't your income is much higher to allow for that. But again, discretionary would not be nanny, it would be childcare, right? So again, nanny would fall into this category. And when you, let's say, if you make $50,000, then of course this whole breakdown will be matching your $50,000 a year income. If you make $500,000 income, then your childcare will be more expensive because you have nanny, maybe you have babysitters, and your kids are in some private schools and private camps. I would argue that it pretty much, other than discretionary spending, pretty much keeps this structure. So raising kids, highest childcare costs. Just be prepared for that. And if you are planning for children, you can sneak a peek and live for a year. Sneak a peek at the expenses for daycare, expenses for formula, expenses for diapers, and all these other costs. My son is 22 at the moment, so I'm not keeping up with what is childcare cost right now. But in my days, it was way more than $1,500 a month, way more. So how about if you're planning to have children, just live 1 year as if you have them and see how you feel. Good, moderate health, low interest rate, lower, yeah, because you would have 10, maybe even 15 years into your career years and you would have established a good credit. Of course, if you didn't pay your credit cards, you would not have a good credit, but we assume you're doing the right thing and you would have had enough time to build your credit by now. So your interest rates should be the lowest available on the market. High housing costs, simply because you need 3-bedroom home. If you have even one child, usually 1 bedroom for parents, 1 bedroom for a babysitter or mom-in-law or mom or nanny that comes to stay with kids and maybe using it as an office. But it's very rare that we would have 2-bedroom homes. It's usually 3 bedrooms. Okay, and no discretionary spending because A, you don't have money to spend anything on discretionary, and B, you don't have any time, you don't have any energy. You just think, oh gosh, if I make it through the day, I'm lucky. Lower car insurance, usually you're no longer 25, and supposedly you would have had car by now for at least 10 years, and if you're accident free and good responsible driver, your car insurance would be lower. Okay, next stage, empty nesters. This is the good place to be in. You're 50 plus, you're still working. Supposedly you would be having the highest income ever because you have 20-30 years of work behind you, and your childcare is next to nothing because your kids are up and running. Maybe they're still going through university and college, maybe not, but we assume that if they do, you would have had savings to cover for the education and childcare. As such, childcare as daycare or a nanny or babysitter is not an issue anymore. You could see financial services are a bit higher because this is the time people start planning their estate and they think, oh gosh, I need to get life insurance before I become completely uninsurable. And it's more expensive than ever. So financial services would be a bit higher. Healthcare, bad habits, hopefully not. But you see how in the previous slide we had almost no discretion, right? And now you are getting this discretionary spending because your childcare drops significantly and your income increases. And if you're lucky person with very very little bad habits, if any, then you have more money to spend on your wellness, which I highly recommend all of us do. So highlights of this stage: kids are young adults, issues with healthcare, dental. Well, healthcare is starting to be more and more significant expense, but mostly because of wellness, because of something that today's 50 pluses want to look younger, and some of them actually look better in their 50s and 60s than they looked 20 years ago because of the healthcare and wellness advances that we as humanity, as mankind, have achieved, and possibility to buy best creams, best clothes, do wellness, fitness, exercise, yoga, and all those nice things. And at this age, you actually have time and room and space to do it because your children are up and running somewhere and doing their own thing. Best earnings, best interest rates, because everybody wants you as a client. Banks offer you the best of the best because they think, oh, you would have equity, you would have pension plans, you would have savings, you have access to this equity, and you can buy a cottage or another property because if you bought your home in 30s and you're 20 years into paying down mortgage, and you would still have to pay down mortgage, and today more and more people had to live off their equity to raise kids, but you would have usually equity, and that would allow for higher discretionary spending. All these things together would allow for higher discretionary spending, such as vacation, better clothes, better events. That's why we see the marketing today is not for young people. You would see best clothes and best creams and all those luxury goods actually feature women 50 plus because they know that those people usually have money to spend. All right, the next one is retired. The difference with the previous slide is that here your income drops. That's why the essentials is proportionally higher, not because you eat more and you need more clothes. If anything, I would say somewhere around 65 plus, even at 50 plus, people don't spend much on clothes because done it in the previous 20 years so much that they just wear what they have. That's my observation. But here, what we see, housing usually would be just property tax, utilities, or rent if you're renting. But if you're a homeowner, usually you would be done with your mortgage by now. That's a good case scenario. Not the best case, but good case. But still, because your income dropped, proportionally, it would be about 25% of your income, because you still have to pay property taxes and upkeep and utilities and all those things, and you spend more time at home, so you probably burn more utilities there. I'm just kidding. Car expenses less, and sometimes it could be that people just had all the luxury cars they could have during their life and they don't care what they drive anymore. They don't have to spend money on a new vehicle every 5 years because they don't use a car to carry kids around, and it has to be absolutely the best, the safest, and the newest they can afford. So car expense would be proportionately lower, because retirees usually get the best car insurance, they don't drive much, and they often don't even need two cars, unless they're of course wealthy. Bad habits, usually people drop them because health requires that, and you would think, oh, if I smoke and drink, I may have heart attack sooner than later, so why wouldn't I spend money on some supplements and some vitamins and health procedures? But you see, health is going up, essentials proportionately get higher. Childcare doesn't exist unless it's an odd $100 for Christmas, for birthday gift, but nothing like it was in 20 years ago. And discretionary spending, not as big as in the previous decade because income drops, but still present because you don't pay mortgage anymore. All right, so kids are self-sufficient, issues with healthcare sometimes, and if you don't have your and usually you would not have medical insurance or group benefits because you're retired. You can sign up for some plans, but you would have to pay it out of your pocket. And dental costs could be the highest because we want straight white teeth all present in our mouth, and this is the time of life when it's more and more challenging to keep this white smile with all teeth, and it's very expensive to do the implants and all the dental work. That usually it's an out-of-pocket expense. Lowest car expenses that will help to pay for teeth. Access to equity, again, moderate discretionary spending. And the last stage of everyone's life is nursing home or retirement home, and that would be majority of your income, because that home usually would provide you with food, with all the services, all the transportation, so you don't need your car. Obviously, you don't pay childcare anymore. You would have some extras for health in discretionary, but quite minor compared to the cost of living in the nursing or retirement home. All right, so that was my rundown on all these stages, and I would just go back to the slide I had at the beginning to show you that over the years I've dealt with many different clients from different stages in their lives, and sometimes I would start with a young client, and in 25 years of my financial planning experience, I would end up now with empty nesters. So you would see how things transition, but it always rolls around those 8 categories, which I suggest you use in this monthly cash flow to find money that can be spent much better than on, for example, bad habits. Maybe give yourself a break with some luxuries, live life, enjoy life, but sometimes it's hard to see where you spend your money without a high level picture like this. And therefore, I created this tool for you so you could track everything and spend all your hard earned dollars the best way possible. That was Tatiana Trekova, the author of the Best Self Guide 6-step system. And this is a very important step. And my whole system is how you can save and how you can get richer, more secure, and more happy at the very end. Bye for now.